Well, a very pleasant Friday afternoon to all of you. This is Omar Serrato with the Tilted Lawyer Podcast. I am Omar Serrato, of course, a real and practicing attorney. I got a lot to talk about. We're going to do some of the lively stuff. I know that the judge came down with his decision. I know that I talked about it last night and had some things to say about it. I was irritated with Ezra's writing, and I thought that the judge was gonna just grant the extension because, like, why not? And I was wrong. So sometimes it happens. What are you gonna do? His reasoning for it, I'll go into it for a little bit, but more importantly, I have last week I had Redditor ANITA, internet sleuth, on my show, and we talked for about an hour about a conspiracy that she's been developing through her research, connecting the dots from text messages and the pleadings. She's back to expand on all of that, and she's needed now more than ever, because I'm hearing more and more concern about whether or not this defamation claim is going to fly, and if it doesn't, what that means for Justin Baldoni if he chooses to go down this path. Just all of the added anxiety that 47.1 keeps onto the litigation pile. But we're going to talk about that. Before I get to any of that, I'm going to spend about 15 minutes talking about Lori Vallow. If you're unfamiliar, she is famous for having unalived her children, for getting involved in, I don't know if it was a doomsday cult, but it was basically a cult with her husband, Chad Daybell, who is now sitting on death row. She has been sentenced to life without possibility of parole for her role in a conspiracy to unalive her children that her husband was convicted for. We're going to talk about all of that. And I'm going to give you my thoughts on how she's doing representing herself. All that coming up next. You're going to stick around. It's going to be a good one. Let's get started.
Whatever you might be going through and wherever you might be, this is Omar Serrato with the Tilted Lawyer Podcast. I'm here to take your mind off of things. Yes, I'm an attorney. No, I'm not giving you legal advice. We're going to sit and talk like people, as these are the candid thoughts of one practicing attorney, and it's after hours. So have a seat. Feel free to have a drink and join me. Let's get started.
And we're back, folks, as I'm fixing one of my oil diffusers that I didn't realize was on. Start of the show. Does it need to be on? No, but I'd like it to be on because I like it. How about that? What color should it be? How about orange? That's what it goes with a fire thing. What do you think of that? So Lori Vallow, there's a lot going on. She's 4 days into trial. I'm not really interested in the merits of this trial, because I've already made up in my mind I would be completely 100% a biased juror in this case, that she's guilty. I've thought that she was guilty for a long time. This trial is about the unaliving of her husband, Charles Vallow, and her role in that. Her brother, who's since deceased, shot him with, I believe it was a shotgun, in the chest as he was on his way to pick up his children, and there was a whole thing that ensued. Self-defense was claimed. They reopened the case after some time learning some things about Miss Daybell in the process of her other trials, and now they have her on trial for the death of her ex-husband. And so here she is on days 1 and 2. The prosecution argued that Lori Vallow conspired with her brother Alex Cox to kill her husband, all in an effort to claim a $1 million insurance policy and marry Chad Daybell, which she did, and then she did. And these really cringe-worthy marriage pictures. They did the whole thing where you go to Hawaii and take the pictures on the beach dressed in all white clothing as a symbol of your purity or whatever, as she's going around talking about zombies and whatnot and calling her children zombies and that they must be vanquished for eternal salvation and all this crazy stuff that she was on about. They talked about some of her bizarre religious beliefs that Lori invoked, specifically referencing the story of Nephi from the Book of Mormon to justify her murder. that she had talked about with friends and family members. There wasn't any physical evidence on those days supporting any self-defense claims regarding Alex Cox. And just spoiler alert, there isn't going to be. We heard from Serena Sharp, Christina Atwood. These were friends of Lori. They basically testified that Lori believed that Charles was possessed by evil spirits. And this became a theme for Lori, that whenever she wanted somebody out of the way, or whenever somebody was mean to her, whenever she didn't like somebody, then they were possessed. They were zombies, they were possessed by spirits, whatever. So Serena Sharp and Christina Atwood get on the stand and they testify that Lori believed that her husband, Charles Vallow, in the midst of a divorce, and he was trying to move on and she was trying to move on or whatever, they're going through it, well, he's possessed. And she conducts these bizarre rituals attempting to cast out these spirits. Adam Cox, who was Lori's brother, comes on to, not the one that killed him, obviously, but the one who's still alive, testifies against her, testifying that Charles had reached out to him, really concerned about whatever in the F Lori was on. Like, what? I don't know what's going on with this lady. But she has these crazy beliefs, and if anything happens to me, is one of these conversations, I just want you to know I have these concerns. She was concerned about Lori's beliefs, planned an intervention to bring her back to reality from whatever faction of cult that she was involved in with the LDS Mormon religion. She didn't practice mainstream Mormonism. So if there's any Mormons that are listening to the show, and I know for a fact that there are, I'm not impugning at all when I talk about crazy religious beliefs. The mainstream Mormon religion, she believed an offshoot of Mormonism that was brought about by failed religious author Chad Daybell. And he got her to believe in him, and in the course of doing that, she developed these crazy things. And really, it was a self-serving religious ideology that was simply there to serve her carnal interests, is the way that I would describe it. Adam talked about her highly odd behavior with Alex. Who ignored communication from Adam, despite expecting him. They talked about how they had like this weird, almost sexual relationship that was strange, and that's been highlighted in other places as well, Netflix documentaries and whatnot. Nancy Joe was Charles Vallow's date, gets on the stand and testify, and that was explosive testimony. Basically confirmed Charles' intent was he wanted to move on from Lori. They were going through a divorce or wanting to get a divorce. She revealed that Charles had removed Lori as his life insurance beneficiary because he was suspecting that something was up with her. Day 3, there was cross-examination of Detective Coons. They talked about lack. Oh, that's Anita backstage. I think she's in here twice. Detective Coons gets on. He attempts to challenge evidence regarding bullet trajectories and shot wounds. Coons rebuts her by explaining that Charles' clothing, body position clearly indicated that it really looked to him that this was freaking staged. What do you want from me? On Lori's cross-examination, it was a mess. It was a mess. She didn't know how to question. She didn't know how to question without testifying. She was not objective enough to leave her emotions out of all of this. There was literally a moment in her cross-examination of Nancy Joe, I think it was, where she's talking about, so did you know that Charles was married? Is it a habit of yours to date married men? She's doing one of those. And we're going to actually review some of the tape on that. That's kind of the highlights so far. This is where we're at. Again, I'm not really interested in the merits of this case. I feel like this is a slam dunk. It would be the miracle of all miracles if somehow she's acquitted on any of these charges. And she's not doing very well. Look, I know there's it's kind of a moot point because she's already facing life in prison as a result of the other case where she was found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder for her 2 children. life in prison and all of that. So she really has nothing to lose. And she made a statement, I think it was on Dateline this week or last week, where she was talking about there was a lot of times where I really wanted my attorneys to say stuff and they just wouldn't. And it made me really mad. The reason why your attorney did not say the things that you wanted to say was likely because it was stupid. It wasn't going to be helpful and was missing the issues. The whole reason why you have attorneys is because, look, you don't go into court and just say everything that's on your mind. There's literally maybe 2 or 3 relevant issues that we all got to get through. Everything else is irrelevant. And the more that you stick to irrelevant things, the more you're going to piss off the judge. Lawyers spend all of their law school careers and, really the first 6 years of practice figuring out how to zero in on the relevant issues. And we get really good on ignoring all of the irrelevant stuff. And we get really good at telling our clients, yeah, I know you want to say that, but you just can't. Well, sometimes you get clients like Lori Vallow, and it's really important for her to get her words across. And so she made the decision that she was going to represent herself. And look, man, it's really hard. And to be honest with you, she's not doing that bad of a job. Just if I were to grade her like as a first-year law student in trial advocacy or something, I would say that she is not doing that bad. She's got a decent courtroom presence. She is reasonably intelligent. She just needs a lot of work. She needs to stop wasting time on irrelevant questions. She needs to stop giving into her baser emotions. She needs to learn the evidence code a lot better. She needs to learn hearsay and what that is. She needs to learn how to question around hearsay. You don't ever ask what somebody else told you. You say, was it ever indicated to you thus and so, or whatever. Or those are things that come with experience over doing this over and over and over again. I've been in courtrooms. I don't know how many cross-examinations I've done, direct examinations, whatever. But it's probably in the hundreds, if not thousands. And it takes a really long time to get good at it. And I still would not consider myself particularly good at it. I mean, I struggle as much as the next attorney. You make mistakes, but you have to learn how to make mistakes and move on and not draw attention to your mistakes. And these are things that she's just not very good at. And she feels like it's unfair. She's even commented, look, I'm not a lawyer. All this is new to me. Yeah, no shit. You're the one that put yourself in this position. So she's not going to gain any sympathy by saying that. But she feels the need because she's anxious and probably a little self-conscious. But let's get into some of her testimony. So I'm going to give you some of my thoughts. This is her cross-examining Charles Vallow's girlfriend at the time. I believe that he was deceased. Let me share my screen with you, and then we'll get into some of this right now. Here we go.
You've seen it all on TV where we're not getting divorced.
Okay.
So on the website that you met him, did he say he was divorced?
I'm not certain.
Would you have gone on a date with him if he would have said he was married?
If I would have realized how married he still was, maybe not. But I just met for dinner. I wasn't sleeping with him or anything.
Do you go on dates with married men?
I'm going to
Not
object
naturally?
argumentative. I'm going to also object under 611 for harassment.
Mhm.
All right,
Did you guys hear that okay?
I'll sustain the objection.
Your Honor, do I not have a right to cross-examine this witness for what she has already testified to?
You can cross-examine her about what she's testified to.
So you did go on a date with a married man,
I went on a date with Charles.
but you did not know he was married.
I knew his divorce was not final.
His divorce was not started.
Okay.
Okay. So in your text messages, you asked Charles if he was a good kisser. Is that correct?
Maybe, sure.
Did he answer the text message?
I'm sure.
object.
I'm I'm sure he did.
Again, 611, harassment.
I'll sustain the objection for relevance and hearsay.
So are you trying to tell me and this jury that you went on one date with my husband and he told you all the details of our lives?
I'm telling you the truth, and that's what I know.
So you spent your whole date getting to know each other, talking about me.
Don't flatter yourself. No, we did not spend the whole time talking about you.
You knew a lot about me, right?
I knew what I've testified to.
What else did you talk about on your date?
Lots of things.
Like what, for instance?
Life, kids, the church, lots of things.
Okay. Did he tell you about anything about our other 4 children?
Yes,
So you knew that we did have 5 children as well?
I did.
Okay. Did he talk to you about my daughter Tylee?
He did.
Did he talk about his relationship with her?
I don't recall that.
Did he talk about the contention in his relationship with my daughter Tylee?
I don't recall that.
I'm sure you don't.
And I'm going to object to comments by the defendant made after questions, testifying.
I'll sustain the objection.
On your date, you talked about my husband was a life insurance salesman, is that correct?
I knew he did something with money and insurance, but I really didn't know the details of what he did for work. Like I said, I don't ask the details about what someone does for work when I'm trying to get to know someone.
But you knew that he sold life insurance, you stated that.
I believe that I had a vague understanding that he did something with insurance.
And then he brought that up again at dinner.
Folks, so I don't know. We're having connection issues. I know it's the Wi-Fi here in the building. We're going to try our best to work through it. If somehow this drops off or freezes, just bear with us. We're going to try to make it through as best we can. I was going to actually pause that a lot earlier just to highlight that. Look, she's testifying. I'm not even sure what point she's trying to make here. I think that the prosecution brings her in basically to bring up, establish what was going on behind the scenes, Charles' concerns, how this is all leading up to something. He removes her from the insurance, and now she's up here, and she can't get over the emotional aspect of, it's literally like she's woman scorned over here. Charles has moved on to this other lady, and she's asking him questions that have nothing to do with this case. It's all about impugning her morality for dating somebody that's still not officially divorced, which, by the way, they were separated in the process of going through a divorce. So that is what it is. Let me take you to this other clip. That was that one. This is her, the judge warning her about testifying during questions. So this judge has been so incredibly patient with her. And this is an example. They have this spat early in the morning. And let me just take you to this right here.
Seated of exhibits you anticipate that you might need during the rest of your cross-examination prior to us starting, because there are a lot of photographs to try to sift through to get the ones that you may need. You have a habit of, when a witness answers a question, to add something on the end of their answer. For example, during this witness, you said, I wasn't aware of that. Another time you said, I don't know much about guns. On previous witnesses, you've said, that's what I recall, or I'm not really sure. When you say those types of things, it's a form of testimony. Okay, so I'm going to caution you to try to refrain from doing that. After the answer, just move on to your next question, okay?
Sure.
All right. Anything else from the state?
Yes, Your Honor, I received.
Yeah, so he's given her that warning. He's really trying to be patient with her. You kind of have to with somebody that doesn't know what they're doing. A lawyer would not get that kind of a warning from they just get yelled because you know better. Are you going to testify? Are you going to get up there and take an oath? Or are you going to ask the questions? Because it seems like you're testifying. And then, but he's trying to be polite. And I feel like this judge is like just so intentionally like to keep his blood pressure low. It feels like he's just deliberately speaking so slow so as to not sound too excited, to try to stay even keeled, which is, he's a good judge. This last clip, she kind of gets snarky with this officer and just screws it up. I'm going to play you like this 3 minutes of testimony. This is a really important cross-exam. He's testifying basically to evidentiary things, and she has to attack his investigation and bring up key points and make the jury understand what it is she's trying to get in, but she can't do it because she doesn't know how to effing ask questions. I'm going to play this, and then I'm going to wrap this up, and then we're going to talk about some lively stuff. So stick with me. Let me just make sure I'm sharing this with you first. That would be a good idea. It was this. Let's go.
People renewing their certification, but both.
Correct.
Okay. How many people would you say that you've taught that have never done CPR before?
Never done CPR, and it's probably in the hundreds over that long of doing that.
So you'd be familiar with how a first timer would react.
Yeah, you try to forewarn them what to expect.
Okay. So these first timers, they have to be taught the appropriate place to place their hands. Would that be fair?
That is part of the course, yes.
And so do you show them, or do you just tell them in class where to put their hands?
It's a video-based system through American Heart. There's a curriculum that we would have been following.
Okay. So if you could only tell them, like over the phone, that might be difficult for them to know the correct placement of their hands if they've never done it before.
I guess it depends on the instructions that the dispatcher gave. Ultimately, if I was telling somebody over the phone, you want to put your hands on their chest, on the lower part of the chest. It's that kind of simple, so to speak.
Okay. But without the video, if you were teaching a class and you didn't have video, it might be difficult, right? For a bunch of first timers?
Objection, speculation.
Overruled. You can answer.
Oh, does it mean answer? Oh, okay. Sorry. Can you repeat the question then?
Yeah, so it might be difficult. If you didn't have the video, it might be difficult, for a bunch of first timers to know exactly what to do if you just had to tell them middle of the chest, lower chest.
You could obviously show on.
By the way, that's a objection, speculation. The judge is letting it go because he just wants to get through this witness.
Show on a person. You could show on yourself.
You couldn't show them and you could only tell them. Could it be difficult?
I suppose it's possible depending on the person.
Okay, that's fair. So do you think that your CPR class would be fairly successful if you had no visuals?
By the way, she's asking they're not leading questions, they're open-ended questions. You don't do cross-exam that way. You make a statement and you ask yes or no questions. And so she hasn't gotten the art of that. And by the way, that's a really hard thing to do. Most of the time you ask questions, you're looking genuinely for an answer. On cross-exam, you already know the answer to your questions. And so you just blurt out a line that is a statement that requires a yes or a no. And that's impactful for the jury. It gives you the ability to testify without testifying. Because the cross-examinee, his response almost doesn't matter. You're making your points through your questions. She is very much novice at this.
Objection, relevance, speculation.
Next question.
I got it, Your Honor. So
Yeah, that's a bad look. He says, I got it, Your Honor. So look, man, not to spend too much time on this Daybell case. There hasn't been a lot of explosive things going on with this case so far. Other than Lori Vallow's very clear inability to practice law, which is forgivable because, she's brand new to this. Look, when I was learning trial advocacy myself, I was shitty at it. I got better, but it took years and years and years of getting my ass kicked by the judge, and learning how to answer or ask questions, learning how to avoid objections, learning when to object, learning when not to object. there's so much subtlety involved. Like the idea that you're ever gonna just represent yourself and do a better job than attorneys. It's not that you can't learn the law. You can know the law. Look, I can give you a baseball bat and tell you to walk up and try to hit major league pitching. But good luck the first time you see a 98 mile an hour fastball high and tight, man. It's freaking hard. It's hard. And so nowadays it's even worse because you have AI and Chat GPT and all these people. They come in and they did their Chat GPT research and they think that they have all the answers. They think it's going to go well. Look, you can't use Chat GPT in the courtroom. And the difference between non-lawyers and lawyers when they use AI is that lawyers know when Chat GPT is wrong. Lay people have no idea. And so it makes the knowledge gap go like this. It makes dumber people seem dumber and smarter seem a lot smarter because we use it as a tool to get all of the, the grunt work out of the way. Lay people and like, oh, it's a finished product. Oh man, you got to fact check that. You got to check it against the law. You got to check against your experience. You have to check it against cases and all of these things. And so it's real dangerous. I feel like nowadays, I feel like people are getting more and more bold, wanting to represent themselves, and they are paying for it dearly in court because you misunderstand the law. Listen, I've been practicing law for 11 years, and 3 years prior to that, I was in law school. I've been studying the hearsay rules for 14 years now, 15 years now. I still don't have down cold, man. There's 23 exceptions to the hearsay rule. And then you got to deal with double hearsay and triple hearsay and exceptions and this and that. It's effing hard. It's hard. And it's one thing to read the word. It's quite another to learn how to apply, to understand and apply. And so Lori Vallow, look, if she wasn't a murderer of her children, I'd have a lot more empathy with her. If I just look at it objectively and just look at her performance only, I would be encouraged by the positive traits she has. And what does she have? She speaks confidently. She is assertive in the way that she speaks. She has a good courtroom presence. Short of that, she does everything else bad. And so, look, I'm going to be following this case, obviously, but there's also Karen Reed coming up, which is actually a trial that I have invested a great deal of time in. So I'll be covering that as well. I'll be keeping an eye on this one, but just know, look, Lori Vallow is doing her thing and it's not going very well. Let's move on to Blake Lively. So the judge has ruled on the request for an extension of time to respond to the 1,600 requests for special or for production of documents, and I think it was 171 special interrogatories, and they just wanted an extra 30 days. It would have been mutual for both sides. And the judge said, yeah, no. And there's a couple of things. I'm just going to spend a few minutes on it. There was a couple of things to point out. He made reference to the fact that the Wayfarer parties have been aware for weeks now that there were issues inherent in their First Amendment complaints. And so there is not good cause then to wait for the judge's assessment of it when they've already identified issues in their complaints through their oppositions to the 12b6s. And then he goes on to state that you all have failed to show good cause about why I would grant this extension. And when he said that, he says, we're going to just keep the deadlines. You got till April 18th to do everything. And that's it. That's it. I was of the opinion, because you know what? I don't really practice. I practice mostly in state court. I don't practice in federal court. But it is a true statement that federal judges are much more sticklers for the law than state court judges. But even so, I viewed their request as reasonable. The logic was sound to me. But what they failed to do, and I think that it's starting to become a habit with the Wayfarer party's legal writing, is that they make assumptions and they just miss things. Like they could have given... And granted, I didn't even catch it when I was reading their requests the other day. But they could have given like one or two sentences of like, hey, we've responded to 500 of them. In order to respond coherently to the next 1,100, we're going to need more time. If I respond to them now, it's just going to be like, look, this is what we have and it's incomplete. Discovery's ongoing and this is what we've done and this is what we have to do and we need more time. And there might have been objections in there, whatever. And so it would have maybe been something to do to write in there that we need more time to accurately and thoroughly answer all of these discovery requests. And another 5 days isn't going to be enough. Maybe that's all they would have had to say to show good cause. But this judge in the Furby case had remarked that it's not enough for an attorney to say that, look, I'm so busy, I just don't have the time to do it. You need something more than that. And so what it would have required was them to demonstrate what is the nature of the request, why is it going to take longer than April 18th? And they didn't do that because they thought, I thought that it was a reasonable request and that it was going to get just approved. Well, it isn't. And so now they have this deadline that they're staring in the face, and there's not a whole lot they can do about it. So let me get to some of the. Hey, Dragonfly has become a new YouTube member. Thank you so much for joining the family. I hope that'll make you proud. And she has gifted 5 Tilted Lawyer memberships to unsuspecting members of the public. And what does this Tilted Lawyer membership grant you? I think that one of you guys are missing the fact that it gives you direct access to me to ask me your personal legal questions, and I will give you my assessment of whatever it is. Whether it be on this show or whether it be in private, it grants you that. And so it's a valuable thing to have. In addition to when we do sometimes these shows where we have this members only content where we're doing different things, mostly answering legal stuff, but you know. But Dragonfly, thank you so much for being part of the family. And I know I've seen you around the chat for a while now. And now I guess you've just made it official. You're contractually a family member of the Tilted Lawyer anyway. Winks says, ooh, I have a ton of legal questions. Well, why don't you call into the show? Winks, you should call into the show. Matter of fact, we have Flat coming up in about 20 minutes. But before I get to that, back by popular demand, I have ANITA, the Redditor, is how I'm going to refer to her. She has done a lot of research on this case. As a lot of you will know, 47.1 has become a thing. And we read it the first time, and it was like, oh, look, treble damages, punitive damages, whatever. But then it's like, hey, there's no avoiding these fees if you lose the defamation case. So you better make damn sure that you're going to be able to prove maliciousness in your defamation claim, and that you're going to be able to attribute it to Blake Lively. Now, I have speculated that, oh, well, Reynolds must have been an agent for Blake Lively. Well, it wasn't pled that way, though. Which is problematic, because if it's not in the pleading, then what are you supposed? Then what are we doing? So then he wasn't an agent. Is that what you're saying? So then we're claiming malicious defamation on the strength of these 8 allegations that really stemmed from her 17-point letter. It's difficult. And look, Friedman is not infallible. He makes mistakes. Even if you're if you're supporting his side because you like Justin Baldoni's side of the case, it is not a thing that lawyers are perfect. And so he made mistakes, and he's acknowledged those mistakes in his oppositions to these 12b6 motions. He's going to have to deal with it sooner or later. And what he's going to have to do, and really where this case stems from, 47.1 is going to matter, because it means that if Baldoni wants to take this to trial, he's going to have to prove malice. That's how you defeat 47.1. How do you do that? You better have a pretty damn good way to prove conspiracy. ANITA thinks that she has it, and she's going to try to convince me of such. I don't know what she's going to say, and I've done it that way on purpose. She was going to send me something that says, no, I'd rather just argue with you. So, all right, cool. So we're going to argue then. I know we're going to argue, but she's going to give me her ideas, and I'm going to tell her what I think. So without further ado, let me bring to the stage ANITA the Redditor. ANITA, how are you?
Hi. Thanks for having me back. Can you hear me?
Yes. What do you think about my name for you? ANITA the Redditor. Should I call you something different?
I love it. By the way, I am having some connection issues or something. Like it's
Mm.
blurry, or I don't know. Is it because I saw in the chat some people had the same
Yeah.
issue? Is it solved or?
As long as they could hear me, as far as I'm concerned, it's solved. Nobody needs to see me in high resolution.
Okay, all right.
And they can't
okay.
see you anyway, so we're good.
Okay, cool. All right. So, first of all, thank you for reading my 22-page thing last time. So
Yes,
this
ma'am.
time I'm gonna have a bit more, I don't know, let's say interactive in a way, that because I think my mistake was that I tried, as I said to you, really like I tried to show you my thought process. But
Yes.
okay, so I'm not gonna ask you to take your lawyer hat off today.
Okay.
So actually, I want to make it short, not as detailed as it was last time, because I think you understood more or less, and people are quite aware of the case. So,
yeah,
I want you to be Friedman right now, Brian Friedman. Okay, right. So
I'll play Friedman.
I call you. Yeah, you're Brian Friedman. Okay, so you're not Omar. You're still a lawyer, and.
Yes,
I'm gonna be Justin Baldoni. I'm gonna switch to Blake Lively. I'll try to be as quick as possible. So
okay.
So I'm calling you on around maybe August 13 or something. Somebody has already mentioned that we might be hiring you because there's some situation happening.
Yes.
On set. We reach out to you.
Okay.
And then I am giving you all the information that I have.
All right.
Okay. And then now I'm gonna switch to being Lively. All right.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go back to how the movie started. Right. I was nice. Everything was good. Like, I mean, based on her interviews and everything, she's always had that flirty and like, you know, how to say, colorful
Wait a
way
minute.
of
Are you
talking.
Blake Lively coming to me, Brian Friedman, for representation?
No. I'm Justin Baldoni, and then I'm explaining her behavior to you.
I got it.
So this is so now it's all good. Like, you know, I don't have ill intentions per se, but I want this franchise. Okay. I see that Justin is like very how to say, he's quite flexible, he's quite tame, he's like very, how to say, he's embracing everything. So I'm very in a way. And before this, just as a reference, I already mentioned their whole franchise thing with Ryan Reynolds. He has spoken about it. There are quotes of him directly from 2015, his approach to franchise, everything. And also Blake Lively's like mention in a YouTube video where she says that she kind of notices the popularity of the book first and the fan base first. She doesn't mention the movie. Okay, so anyway, she gets signed on the movie. I think she wanted to be the face of the movie, just like Ryan was Deadpool. Okay. And at that point, they didn't know that Baldoni was so powerful in the movie, in a way that he was a co-owner of the studio. This is something that they find out in the, like, you know, because she found out about the movie first, and then the studio and everything, all that information was said. And in the filing with from Friedman, one of the footnotes says that actually in one of the first meetings, Blake Lively told Baldoni, "Oh, you're quite powerful here in this movie." Like, you know. So this is something that's in the lawsuit. And but that could be, say, hearsay, right? Because I don't think they have evidence of it, but it's mentioned in there.
Ignore hearsay. I'm trying to get to your point.
Okay, so all of this is happening, and then I want to put my creative input, and Justin welcomes it, and he's like, "Oh, it's, you know, it's good, but do you have a different approach?" She has more of a commercial approach, and Baldoni has a different one. And as a director, in my 22 pages, there's a reference to it if you want to link it later. So I don't want to open and close all of these things again.
We'll link it now. You know what? Leave a link it in the comments and I'll pin it so people could find it.
Okay, 1 second. Wait, let me finish this thought, and then, because otherwise my brain will go all over the place.
For sure, do that.
And so we have the woman, Christy Hall, who's the writer. And Baldoni says that, oh, we will be choosing some stuff from it, but how to say, he wants to honor and respect Christy Hall because it's, you know, it's her screenwriting.
Yeah.
And so basically she gets a bit of a pushback. That's when she has the dragons meeting with Ryan and Taylor.
Yeah.
And then just to show, you know, encouragement there, she's still like pushing the power, you know, it's like, oh, I have power, trying to convince him like, oh, you should listen, I'm the creative control, I have, you know, I'm getting, I'm doing writing, but I never get paid for it, but it's never about the credit, you know, and she still goes on. And then I think in and around May 15, like May 15 to 20, there was a text message from Justin Baldoni where he asks her, hey, have you rewritten the screen or like the text? And then she was like, oh yeah, like I just did it, you know, like on the spot, and you know, I've changed a few things.
Yeah.
So this is what happens. Anyway, she gets a pushback again. So all of a sudden they realize that okay, she will not be getting her way with it, you know? So this is when her tactic changes. That's when she starts becoming like, oh, uncomfortable. Yeah, she was uncomfortable, but she was uncomfortable because she wasn't being bowed down to. I don't know if
Catered to.
Yeah. So, and then that's where she's like starts picking on things on set, you know, like to like making becoming difficult, anything and everything that starts bothering her. And then the writer's strike happens, and then she asks for the dailies, right? On the 13th, I believe that was the first time she asks for the dailies.
Yeah.
From on the 13th, she asks also June, and then she asks in July. She gets a pushback, no. August, Justin sends her, well, Justin sends me, I'm Blake, sorry, I forgot. Justin sends me the 5-hour assembly cut, but it's not all dailies. And then he says that I will not be sending anymore. Then she brings in her agent, says that, oh, you know, I understand Justin doesn't want to show it, but, you know, he can fly to New York. I'm asking, he can fly to New York. So 3 times from Jamie says he will not be showing. And then boom, the 17-letter thing. You know what? We're not going to play nice. This is how it happens. And then, as I said in the theories, the 17 list actually is more about having control and demand of the movie, which will kind of lead her to the PGA mark. Whatever happens, this is a plan. Anyway, they finished the movie, no incidents. And then slowly she progresses with Sony demanding this, demanding that, getting a cut. She wants this. And because one of the main clauses that was in her 17 list is like, oh, anything negative to her, which means it can be like if she said no, that's retaliation against this. She will take it as a retaliation, whatever, if she said no to, basically. If you
Talk
read
to me
between
more
the
about
lines.
this retaliation thing. That's a big word to use. Where are we getting this retaliation from?
It's in her 17 list of demands. Am I screaming? Sorry, am I too loud?
No. You're perfect. You're fine.
Okay.
I'm just trying to
Actually, in her 1 second, I will get that. It is. Where's my theory? Where's my theory? Okay.
We're trying to figure out. We're trying to solve this 147, this 47.1 problem, right?
Yeah.
The problem is, how do I prove that she's not just like this uptight lady that is being overly sensitive about stupid issues and calling it SH, as opposed to having nefarious motives and maliciously trying to push Baldoni out for personal gain?
Actually, fun thing that I have discovered, actually 3 things that weren't in my theory, on my 22-page theory that I have found with the help of actually one of the mods from the team, Justin Baldoni.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we discovered something, and I don't want to directly link, but I will quote it.
Okay.
I will quote it. I can share with you, but I can quote what it says in the text messages, which leads me that Brian, that's why, you know, am I allowed to swear?
I swear all the time, of course.
Okay, so it's like he's been so cocky, like, you know, how he's been behaving.
Yeah.
And anyway, I'm going to get to that. So the 17 list thing, 1 second, I'm looking because it was my theory. Please just bear with me. Where is that?
Well, I'm not looking at what you're looking at, so.
Yeah, I'm looking at my theory. Well, 22 pages feel long. It is quite
Yeah.
long.
And by the way, don't ever be afraid to swear on this show. You saw Lauren Nighty on my show just last night. All the stuff that she was on about.
So it says this is point 10 on her 17 list amendment. There shall be no retaliation of any kind against Blake Lively for raising concerns about the conduct described in this letter or those requirements. Any changes in attitude, and it says any changes in attitude, sarcasm, marginalization, or other negative behavior, either on set or otherwise, including during publicity and promotional work, as a result of this request, is retaliatory and unacceptable.
The word retaliation is on that number 10?
Yes.
It literally says retaliation, and then she goes on to describe all these other things.
Yeah. And it says that basically anything, any or other negative behavior. So it's not very, you know what I mean? What does that mean? If I say no for something that I think you don't like, you know, she'll be like, oh, if you use. So it says, there shall be no retaliation of any kind against Blake Lively for raising concerns about the conduct described in this letter or for those requirements. Or like, you know,
that
any
sounds a
changes.
lot like the language of 47.1, doesn't it?
Sorry?
That sounds a lot like the point of 47.1, retaliatory defamation claim.
Oh yeah, so this is like, this goes like way more, how to say, earlier, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
It was, I think it's probably earlier, but then they had to probably like the SH claims. Luckily, Baldoni had refused so many times, like, you know, her flirtiness and stuff. Yeah. I genuinely believe she was trying to get something because I think when they went in, they already had plan A, B, C.
So riddle me this, Anita. Why do you think that she used the word retaliation back in December of 2023?
November. Well,
November.
And key part is here, not only during the set, but during publicity and promotional work. So she's gearing up for any kind of behavior she will deem negative.
Yeah.
Then she will say, like, she will come be like, oh, you did this. I have insinuated as harassment, SH, you know. Yeah. I can go to the thing. This matches, like, how to say, this goes with the California civil code, you know, it goes along hand in hand.
Oh, it goes to 47.1. I mean, retaliation, you know, she's setting it up. She literally puts the word retaliation. That's weird.
Yeah, it is. That's the thing. It is sus. My favorite word. She's very sus.
Well, sus because, well, think about it. I was interested in her using that word way back then because nobody had retaliated against anybody for anything.
Yeah, and the promotional work, and then it's like, how to say, it's foreshadowing. And that is why, like, Justin Baldoni, they might be quite nice and everything. They're not naive and stupid, right? So even early on, like earlier on, when she was asking for dailies, I think that was... Actually, that's not early on, excuse me. I think it was in April when she wanted the cut. And then Baldoni with the editors, he says like, oh, she's getting to edit and that's what she's always wanted, lol. You know, that's a close to quote.
In 5 minutes, give me your closing statement, your closing argument. Okay,
my closing argument. Okay, so you know all of this, Brian Friedman. So now I'm gonna, these are the, I don't know if it's exculpatory, but you can tell me.
I will.
So there is a text message between Jennifer Abel, Baldoni, that was not in the CRD, but was online. I'm not gonna say where it's from or anything, but it was out on the 21st of December. It says, Jennifer Abel, he blocked you. Is he a 12-year-old girl? This kind of behavior is ridiculous and part of the whole plan to keep chipping away at you because they know you will notice kind of stuff and then likely acquiesce. Is that how you say it?
Acquiesce. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, more to her demands. We can put the plan down on paper and work with Jamie and Ashmi to make sure we have all of the documentation needed of what happened on set, who witnessed what, and who would be our allies to go on the background if needed to shut down her claims. And then a timeline of everything Wayfarer did to ensure it was safe set, etc. We will get through this together. This was sent 17th of May. And this is before she even like went to the marketing and everything, when she went to the book bonanza. So this is proof that they have documentation. And she had threatened him after this couple of times already
All right.
to do this. Oh, promotional. Oh, he cannot come to the thing, or I will go, I will ruin. So they have proof of, how to say?
Something is
this.
afoot.
Yeah. And here, this is Baldoni says, yes, thank you. But Ryan blocked me and Wayfarer. And it says, it's why I wanted to hire a person to help me document everything. But I can't live in that fear, not willing to, but I need you guys to very much have a real plan so I can feel at ease. This is 17th of May.
Anita, I gotta tell you, man. I gotta tell you. I'm convinced. I'm convinced in your plan. Because of what you just said, but also because of the awkward phrasing using retaliation in point 10 of the 17-point demand for better behavior. That was clearly written by her lawyers. Clearly. Had to been, right? Now, let me give you my closing argument. Brian Friedman. I'm talking to a jury. For the last 6 weeks, you have heard Blake Lively and her team of attorneys battle on about the merits of bullshit sexual harassment. And you guys are familiar with what they are. You guys know all of what they are. Jamie Heath made eye contact with her in her trailer upon his invitation to come in. He happened to show her, because they were friends, a clip of the afterbirth of their child because they were friends. She was mad that Justin Baldoni hired his friends to play psychologist to deliver the baby in a birthing scene. I don't have to go point by point. All you need to focus on is this one singular thing. There is a word in this 17-point letter that was authored in November of 2023. A word has absolutely no place in a letter that was designed to correct the behavior on set at Wayfarer Studios during the filming of It Ends With Us. It was the word retaliation. Isn't it strange? Isn't it strange that someone would use that word when there is no evidence or no indication whatsoever that anybody was retaliating against anybody? This was the first time she had put out to anybody that she had these grievances, and she put it in writing, and the word that she chose to use in point 10 was retaliation. Now, I got to turn your attention to the language of 47.1. Isn't it interesting that the word retaliation seems to be what the statute 47.1 is built around? That we shall not allow, for any reason, anybody to bring a defamation suit against an accusation of SH. And they filed it in California. Doesn't it stand to reason that they had prior knowledge that this was going to afford them major protections in a prophylactic move to file an SH claim and to carry that hammer over his head in the months when they were finishing up the production of the film, in the months where they were marketing the film, in the months where they were figuring out how to get Baldoni off of his rightfully owned PGA credits so that they could steal them. All you need as proof of malice, your smoking gun, is the word retaliation. I don't know if that's the primary smoking gun, but it should be the biggest of red flags. It should be the reddest of red.
I have a second smoking gun.
Oh,
Can
do
I?
it. Yeah, before
Sorry.
I rattle on. Yeah, no, go for it. Go for it. By all
Okay,
means.
so this is the part. So yesterday I asked Omar if I can find out when a lawyer or attorney was retained, right? So I was going through the filing. Something that I didn't pay attention was the cease and desist letters that they had sent.
Yes.
The first cease and desist letter was sent to Wayfarer on the 20th of December before the New York Times article. And in there, they already had Michael Gottlieb, I think that's it. I don't know how to say it. Yeah, that's how you say it. And in there is something that is quite, how to say, they highlight in a way that, they are kind of, 1 second. I'm just going to read the sentence to you.
Do it.
Sorry. You tell me if it is retaliatory or sorry, what it says. Please also, so cease and desist, everybody can find it. This was on the 20th. Please also understand that we have now obtained an immediate right to sue notice, which is also enclosed, and are prepared to commence litigation. For present purposes, we demand that you immediately cease and desist your unlawful conduct towards Miss Lively and the Lively Reynolds parties, and immediately preserve and do not take any steps to alter or destroy any evidence that relates to the matter.
What's the date of this?
20th of December.
23?
No, 20.
Oh, okay.
So 20, and this is why. So Michael Gottlieb is known for enterprise crisis, how to say, if there's a threat to enterprise. This is his specialty. I've highlighted this one, it's in his profile. He represents clients in enterprise threatening events, including complex litigation at the trial and appellate level. And multidimensional crisis involving so my thing, remember how I had that extortion question, right? So
yes.
They found out in Jennifer Abels that they have documentation. All of a sudden they were referring online to him as Justin Baldoni, director and co-star. He was not an S-predator apparently.
Not that,
you know. And it switches, actually. If you go online, I also have links of articles and everything. I really went, like, I was so convinced of my theory. I really went, I have link of all the things, how the narrative changes. And the last article about this was October 6th, where they're saying that Ryan Reynolds is willing to pay millions of dollars to get the franchise so that they don't... so that she doesn't have to play the movie with the co-star who they clashed with. This is what they said. And before they were talking about his HR complaints and everything. And
by the way, you're saying December 20th of 2024, correct?
Yes, sorry. Yeah, so They get the phone August 21st. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, he's a good person online apparently. And September 15th to October 6th, that's when they try to offer the millions, right? Online even says that he's willing to buy. And then end of October, and actually Stephanie Jones apparently said that, she got subpoenaed in October. So Brian Friedman has mentioned that they did offer to buy the thing and it was declined. And then that's when they subpoenaed the texts, and then they had to retroactively build the case. And then December 20th, they sent this to Brian. Actually, they sent it to Wayfarer Studios lawyer, not even Friedman at that point. You can find it in the cease and desist. And they basically, it says that they're prepared. They're not saying that, we're going to sue, right? So they're just threatening in a way that you cannot talk about us, all of this. Yeah. And actually, TMZ was the first one, it wasn't New York Times. TMZ was the first one to talk from Brian Friedman, but he doesn't attach anything because they were ready to file. They were trying to threaten, to, how to say, we have the CRD complaint now. If you do anything, we will do this.
Right.
And finally, this is the one from Brian Friedman from himself. He talks about how when they were issued about the gag order, he's like, it would be ironic for Blake Lively to settle this case behind closed door when he publicly, when she publicly smeared his name. So this was the thing, and this fits into my whole theory and it shows that Gottlieb was hired way before, so they knew about the extortion.
So let me give you my assessment, because I got literally like 2 minutes before we got to do flat. No, you're good. We've already gone over by 8. It's cool. Listen, I like your theory. I really do. And I think that I don't know if the second one was a smoking gun or not. I'm not even sure if this first one is a smoking gun or not, but it is compelling enough to certainly direct my discovery, and I know what I'm looking for now. And I'm egotistical enough to think that I could probably argue in front of a jury and convince them that those are smoking guns. I think that I can convince. I think Friedman is also, I don't know. I think I want
to highlight one thing about thing here. What there's like a lot of people are missing is that Baldoni, he doesn't want to hurt her. Really doesn't. He just wants to clear his name.
I've heard that a bunch, like from
this is if you
lots of
talk
different
about
people.
like that has been for, if you look at his videos and everything, like he doesn't want to hurt her.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And he has so much more. The fact that they've been documenting, like, and this is a message, right? May 17th. So they could have even more. And here they could have been threatened already, and they may have voice recordings from Sony and everything, but they just don't want to do that yet. So
well,
this
we'll
is
see.
like a little, yeah, it may be. So this is my theory. This is my smoking gun to why my theory makes sense. Maybe not in legal sense. I'm done. Thank you. I rest my case.
No, your case is good. Obviously it's not finished, right? We got to prove all of that. We have to prove all those things. But your theory is good. And what you've done is you've given us a direction. Not that Friedman's not already on the case already, right? But
and that explains Ryan Reynolds doubling down, because he knows they don't have a case in that sense. That's why he keeps on like spewing shit right and left.
Yeah.
It explains why their, I would say, filings have been that way. I think because they want to settle at some point. I think they're gonna.
I don't think they're going to settle, but I'll tell you what. I think that if your theory is correct, we almost don't need Reynolds anymore to be an agent of Blake Lively.
Oh,
but it needs to be ferreted out, though. It really does.
In the 17th point, and actually also in an email, she says that, I assigned my husband as my representative.
Wait, say that again?
In the 17 point demand list, literally there is a line where it says like, I can have a representative of my choosing. And in her CRD complaint, she says that, for the meeting on January 4th, Ryan Reynolds joined me as my representative. It is in her CRD complaint.
See, the problem is that Friedman hasn't played that Ryan Reynolds was an agent. That's the main problem. You could probably infer it from that language, but he hasn't pled it. He's going to have to fix that in his amended complaints. And so, look, I think that Friedman has missed things. But granted, this is a convoluted case. There's a lot of moving parts. He's going to have to fix it, but he's going to have to somehow plead that Reynolds is an agent of Lively. It's the only way that is going to really tie in them all together as a conspiracy. But even with, I don't know, man, troubled by that use of language, retaliation, and point 10 of the 17 point. I've never thought of it before until you brought it to my attention. But it's really suspicious, like you said, it's really sus that would be in there, and it mirrors the language of 47.1. They plan on doing this all along.
Oh, yeah.
I think Friedman knows that. I think that's what they're looking for. And so that's what the discovery is geared towards. But anyway, folks, I love you all. I got to go do flat now. We're going to start in about 3 minutes. Nita, are you going to join us, or is it too late for you?
Yeah, I'd like to.
All right, I'm going to email you a link to that, and it's going to be you, me, and Schnitzel.
Okay.
And we will do our thing. All right, I'll see you in there.
Okay.
Folks, you guys have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.